Good day, YouTube, back with another video here. And as you can see, this is the fender well to the 1966 Chevy Impala that I'm working on. Now I'll start off by giving it a light scuff just to add a bit more of etchiness so that the primer, which I will apply over the black primer to stick a little better. This is the Eastwood epoxy primer and it's a 1-to-1 mix. I don't have a 1-to-1 cup, so I'm using the cup that I do have by just doubling the amount of material that I add for the paint and also the catalyst. Now before applying that to the panel here, I'm just giving it a nice clean down with some Windex cleaner. I find it to be a nice chemical to remove a lot of the debris and adhesion areas that this part came with. And then I'll just give it a nice wipe down with a wet rag of water. And in between each application, I give it a good air down just to help the chemicals evaporate a bit more faster so I can move on to the next. Now I already have my primer mixed in here. The part is already etched and it's tacky and ready for another surface coverage. And this is the primer here. I'm just doing some left to right passes. Now, not only am I staying consistent with the left to right passes, as you can see, this part has an oval shape. So as I'm moving left to right, I have to be careful how the material is being applied, because if I do not increase my distance over the areas where it's oval, I can cause a run. So it's all about just remaining consistent with the amount, the speed that you're going, the amount of material that you're putting out, but also the distance that you allow yourself to have. I like to do anywhere from, I'd say, 8 to 15 inch pass, depending on how potent I have the amount of air coming out the gun and the amount of material which I'm allowing to make contact with the part. Now this is the Fuji minimite 5 that I'm using here. Now moving back onto the primered surface here with the epoxy primer from Eastwood, as you can see, it's nicely laid down. I did get a run, but I will sand that down with the orbital sander. I'll probably use a 800 grit just to remove the run, but at the same time it does not cause too many scratches over the part. I actually had to have this part flash off for about 24 hours. This is one of the delays when it comes to the epoxy primer here. I find it to be very high quality, durable, and allows for paint lay down in a professional manner, but it's just a bit more of having patience because the flash time is a little longer. Now when that waiting period, most of the time there is a higher chance for debris to actually fall onto your part. So before I move on to any step here, I have a tack rag and I'm just tacking everything off. And believe it or not, you'll be surprised at the amount of debris that I do pick up on this tack rag by just letting the part sit. Now moving on to the next step here, this is the sublime green that I'm prepping for. Now before I even apply the paint to the cup here, I like to give it a good shake down, because these are different chemicals that are mixed into this paint to actually make it work. And most of the time, depending on what kind of material it is, a lot of the additives can sit towards the bottom. So I like to shake it up just to make sure everything is blended in well. And this is the sublime green, and like I said, I like to lay this paint down over the white primer. To me, it seems to lay down better, and it also enhances the quality, what I come to find. Now this is a 3-to-1 mix. This is a single stage paint which already has the clear coat added to the paint, but I'll just add the reducer, which I've also purchased separate, that Eastwood recommends with this particular type of paint here. So I'll mix the cup with, and I'll use the 3-to-1 ratio. I'll stop at the recommended amount that I need to cover the part that I'm painting, and then I'll just add the reducer to the amount that's also recommended by Eastwood. Now, I like to blow the gun out because it sits there, and anywhere where parts are sitting, there's just chances that debris can infiltrate that part. So I'll clean everything off just to make sure that everything is nicely prepped. Now, as you can see, I'm doing a light pass of the Eastwood paint here, seeing to it that my distance remains the same no matter the shape of the part. And as you can see within the green here, there's still some surfaces where the primer still reveals itself. So on the second coat, I'll go a little bit heavier. I'll just increase the amount of material which I'm allowing to actually exit the gun. Now keep in mind, when you're doing mist coats, this is the difference between your clear coat and your paint. I come to find in order to get a wet, shiny look, you have to apply your material a little heavier and wetter. But this is where you have to be more careful because it just opens the door to mistakes if you're not staying consistent with those three primary sources that I told you of, which is your time, your distance, and also the speed that you're actually going here, the amount of distance that you allow your gun to be from the part, and also the amount of material that you're putting out. So you want to be careful with those things. But as you can see here, I'm getting some good coverage. The paint is actually coming out good. And because I've increased the amount of material here, as you can see, the coverage is a bit more better. And the clear coat, which is also within the paint here, actually reveals itself a little better. Now it's still flashing off here, and I don't want to judge anything soon. So what I'll do, I'll give it about 25 minutes to 30 minutes just to see how the paint actually flashes off. And by allowing time for this material to cure, it actually flows out and it settles better. So before I move on to the pigmentation part, we'll give it about 30 minutes, and then I'll decide whether it's prepped for the actual pigmentation process, which you will actually see me do as the next step here. Now, when it comes to the clear coat, as you can see, at this point, it's not really necessary. But in order for me to have that pearly effect that I want to do to the sublime green here, I'm using the Eastwood to actually blend the material of the pearl onto the clear coat. Now this is after, I'd say, about 45 to 50 minutes here. And as you can see, the part has actually flashed off pretty well. It's flowing out pretty good. And as you can see, the shine is actually still present without me having to do anything. No wet sand, no buffing. This is actually just post-painting here. Just giving the material time to do what it needs to do to actually complete the process. Now, as we move on here, this is the Eastwood clear coat that I'm using. This is no intra coat. This is just regular clear coat. And from past experience, it's always has worked fine for what I needed to do. And I'm only using this as a base to actually get the pigmentation into the surface of the sublime green here. But I try to stay consistent with the amount that I'm mixing into the clear so that I'm not underdoing it, but at the same time overdoing it, because I like to do a light mist coat of the clear coat at this stage. I'm not trying to achieve a shiny surface. This is just to get the pigmentation on there, and then I'll let that flash off, as you will see, and then over that surface I will apply another coating of clear coat. So nothing changes from this point as far as the same specs that I used to apply the Sublime Green. Just doing these same passes here with the pigmentation. I did reduce the amount of material which I've allowed to actually exit the gun. This decreases the chances for mistakes like runs, but it also allows me to have more control of how much of the pigmentation do I want to hit the surface of the panel here. Now, as you can see, this is just one pass, and you can actually see the flakes. And if you kind of give it a good look, you can see that it is doing a sort of color shift. Depending on how the light is hitting the flakes that are in the clear coat, it actually presents itself pretty well. But it does reduce the coloration of the Sublime Green compared to how it did look. As you can see, the pigmentation actually reduced the green effect of the green that I applied prior. But it does have more of a pearly essence to it. So we'll let this flash off, and for the second coat of the pigmentation, I actually did go a little heavier. And as you can see, due to that factor, I did get 2 runs on the surface of the panel here. There's just some things to take into consideration here. Now, the slower I'm doing my passes, either I would want to decrease my material or I want to increase my distance to make up for that change so that I do not cause a run, because this will increase the chances of a run happening. Now, if I'm doing fast passes, but I want to stay consistent, I have to remember that I'm passing through the panel faster, so I have to either increase my material or for the most, bring my gun in a little closer so that there's less of a distance, so that I have better contact between the material and the part here to make up for those changes. Now I've decided to give the areas where I did see a run a bit of my attention. What I did use the orbital sander just to sand it down a little, and then I've decided to also give it a slight buff just to bring the shine back. But as you can see, this is actually, I'd say, 48 hours after the process of the painting. The clear coat has fully cured and it's flashed off, and the part actually has a show quality shine to it. And as you can see, the pearly essence of the pigmentation also presents itself on top of the Sublime Green. But this is the final outcome of the parts here with the Fuji minimite system. I'll do a bit more sanding and buffing just to improve on the appearance of the part here. But yeah, so far so good. And this is the update on the '66 Chevy Impala.